Yes, IFMIS was introduced by the government for the purpose of transparency and accountability in public financial resources to ensure prudent use of financial resources and to enhance visibility of financial transactions, both at county and government, county and the national level. Unfortunately, and of course, it starts from the budget formulation. All the way it goes to procurement, it goes to finance, up to the point of financial reporting. So if IFMIS was in fact, it's a very good tool. If it was used effectively, you would say then you would have prudent use of finance. There'll be a proper accountability and so forth. I'll give you an example. So a county does its budget, and there's a vote for tea. It will be in their budget and it will be uploaded onto the IFMIS and so forth. So when you are making a procurement, there must be that it is against that vote, against that allocation, or that the money that has been appropriated by that county assembly. If money is released at the controller level or approved at controller level and released, all the way up to central bank level, it's all based on those on that budget thing. So that as you spend, then you are spending one within the budget, and you cannot release money that is not budgeted for and does not have that's one of the things that features that it has. And up to the financial reporting and approval of all the payments and everything. But what is happening is like in every other thing, and this I'm speaking from experience because I was chair of Senate Finance. The IFMIS office is not transparent itself. It's reached a point where you could hire an IFMIS officer, and this I'm saying from experience, and anybody can challenge me. You could hire an IFMIS officer to your county to go and tweak the system for you all the way up to the treasury, so that your system, your actual transactions can bypass all those things. Yes, and so money can be approved without being budgeted for. Payments can be made without going through the proper, procedures for approval of payments and so forth, and all those things. So you could hire an IFMIS officer to try and get those things for you. That's why I keep saying that treasury is one of the challenges we have in this country in terms of getting.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
So also with that, the quest for the single treasury account, with what you're telling us.
Treasury is there. The word treasury is there. Good luck.
But the technology problem can be solved using blockchains.
Nobody wants it. There was a blockchain task force, you remember?
Yes.
That came up with very excellent recommendations on how to use that. Does anyone want to use any system that fundamentally limits, enhances scrutiny or limits the opportunities for interference? It will not go very far. You remember the e-procurement?
Yes.
I mean, all of them, they get shut down at the end of the day.
Yeah, but in all of this is the override, it's the human override.
Correct.
Yeah,
but it's good that they, I would say personally, it's a good use of that fund, petroleum, regulatory levy, because that's essentially what it was meant for. For a long time, we have not been using that fund to mitigate against the volatility in the international market of these things. That I think is important, because in business, in economy, you need stability in some of these things. You cannot have a situation where, because how else do you plan? How do you budget? How do you get investors to look at beyond a few months when you are changing things every day? So I think the reason, I'm happy that they are now using it to at least stabilize, even if they are not doing it by. If I were them, of course, I would not just put a shilling. I would simply say no, because I have the money. It's Kenyans who paid it. It's a tax. You taxed me on my fuel to collect that money. So you should stabilize it so that the price of petrol should stay the same for 5, 6, 7 months, so that people can plan and businesses can move on. Yeah. So, but at least that they have managed to use it so that you can increase it only by 1 shilling itself. It's a welcome thing. They have moved from that rigid mentality they had when they came in, that we are going to scrap this thing
Completely.
Completely, and that Uhuru was.
You need actually a buffer margin in between, isn't it? Yeah.
But reality checks in, and then you see that you have to do something about it.
Should we be optimistic because of a stronger gain of a shilling against the dollar? will it also really affect
I think
the prices should be going down?
Yes, we should be optimistic. I mean, many people think it is inflows of foreign loans, the IMF thing and so forth. Plus, of course, some of the measures the central bank itself has taken, interventions which they criticized Uhuru for. They have intervened strongly to try and keep the shilling reasonably, strong. I think if they continue with that, yes, then it would have a moderating effect on the price of fuel and other on other aspects of the economy. Let me emphasize this issue of the motor vehicle. It's not a. Of course, I agree with what he says. It's true. Many Kenyans, it's a luxury to have a car. I mean, they can't afford to buy a car. And this is why. And the government. I think the thinking of the government that the 3 million Kenyans who are driving out of, because they are approximately the number of is 3 million, who are driving us are rich and therefore they should be taxed on the car. I think it's really misplaced in my view, because what your government should be thinking about should be the opposite. How can we get the other 47 million Kenyans to own cars?
That's my argument.
To be able to drive. And why are they not able to drive, by the way? It's not because of lack of affordability, it's because of government taxes. A car that would easily cost you from Japan, because many Kenyans, by the way, the cars we're buying are used cars from Japan. How many people go to the showroom in Nairobi and buy a brand new car? It's businesses mainly and government. Everyone else uses used cars from Japan. But imagine the government was not having that huge tax of over 100% on a used car, you could get your Corolla for 200,000 shillings from Japan and drive. But because of the taxes, you cannot afford. So, I mean, we have a situation where the government should be encouraging people to be mobile, to have more vehicles on the road, to have access to vehicles. So that, by the way, these vehicles are like now, when this Ultra thing came in for the Uber or whatever, this rider thing, how many Kenyans got the chance to own them, because they're costing about 400,000 or 500,000 shillings.
A lot.
Now everywhere you go in this country, even the remotest, even if you go to Mandela, you'll see them on the road. They're the taxis. Bolt and Ubers and all those, rides that are available. So I think we need to encourage people.
Sure.
But the moment you start saying we want to tax, what you're doing is the opposite. You're telling Kenyans you can't afford to buy a car. They want us to walk. The other 3 million to go back to the other 47 and start walking. This is not right, my friend. I think you should tell the government.
I knew you would say that finally. You're itching to come.
Very positive development, and it's long overdue. We have nearly 250 state corporations, and many of which are not. About 40-50 of them are commercial in nature, but majority of them are really institutions that have been set up over the years without serious thinking, and some of them really don't add any value, and there's duplication. I mean, this is why when you say special economic zones and export processing zones, it's really they are one and the same thing. Brand Kenya, Vision Kenya, you have so many of these things. I think it's good that they're merging, and this is a good place to start. However, I think the government needs to go further than this. My concern is not on these ones only, but these ones which are under the ministries, like Ministry of Infrastructure and Roads. You have Ministry of Roads, then you have Kura, you have Kera, you have Kenha, you have KRB. I mean, all of them are state corporations with massive allocations of money.
What's KRB?
Kenya Roads Board,
KRB.
with huge allocation of money. You go to the Ministry of Water, it's the same. Water Trust Fund, water this, water that. There's so many. And I think if there's any ministry, anyone that and these are the ones where most of the misuse is happening. I mean, ask any Kenyan on the road. If you go to those offices, that's where all Kenyans are lining up for contracts and jobs. That's where the activity is. And then the ministry is getting huge allocation. Then those organizations are all holding huge amounts of money. Kera, the other day we were told, was holding
23 billion.
23 billion shillings. So I think in addition to this one, if the government is really serious, a ministry can run all those things. A ministry of roads can run roads. They've done it from independence up to Kibaki's time when these things were set up. Ministries were the ones running, ministry of roads were the ones running everything. And there are many countries in Africa, start from our neighboring countries here, it's still the ministry of roads which do all the roads activities. But you don't go and say, I'll create one for higher roads and rural roads and urban roads and I mean, then the same thing with Ministry of Water and Agriculture. Those three ministries, that's where all the state corporations which really matter. That's where the money gets stolen. That's where the wastage and inefficiencies are. This is the area where water ministry, for example, a lot of duplication. How many of them deal with water? You will be shocked. From water harvesting to the ones that are building dams, to the water trust fund and water enterprise, water resource plan or something. What's is it called? Warma, and so forth. There's so many. I mean, and everything is really something that the ministry can do. Some of them, like Warma is policy, really ministry can do those things. So I think, yeah, it's a good thing to start, but I think they should go ahead and expand it to other state corporations also.
One man, one shilling in Mount Kenya is becoming a very contentious issue. Billow Kerrow, what will be your comment briefly on this debate and where is it going to take us?
I have written extensively on this matter. I have been, I'm one of those very opposed to this because in essence what it's saying is what the deputy president said, that the more people you have, the more taxes you collect, which is not only misleading, but which is completely false. Because I remember I did, because when I was in Parliament in the 2003 and 4, when we were doing the BOMASAT, we were doing the review of we were working on whether devolution would be feasible. I was chair of a technical working committee that did some of the chapters on public finance and so forth. One of the things we did was we got some professors in university to actually look at a study on the viability of devolution in some areas like agriculture and health and so forth. But one interesting thing what I did was that to deal with this matter, because it was coming up even at that time, that the Mount Kenya entitlement thing was coming up, that, you know, so we said, no, let us look at KRA, how much money has been raised in revenue by KRA from Mount Kenya as compared to Western Kenya or Nairobi or Mombasa, and it's really shocking. You know, what people don't know is that people seem to confuse that the revenue generation is not necessarily correlated to the GDP, to the production in a particular county. For example, all the coffee and tea and the things, the macadamias they produce and all the maize and things that they grow does not necessarily mean there is tax collected from that which comes to KRA. In fact, what we found out was that the amount of money KRA was collecting from Mount Kenya was the same as what was being collected in Western Kenya. And if you look at population, the population is the same. So this argument is not true. So the money was coming from where? Most of the KRA money is coming from Nairobi, Mombasa. It's coming from customs duty, it's coming from VAT, it's coming from excise. So me in Mandera, I don't grow my cabbage, I don't grow my maize, I don't grow my beans, I don't grow my everything I buy. And everything I buy, I pay VAT. Where is that VAT paid? It's paid in Nairobi. When my trader picks goods from here, if he collects any good he collects from here, he's paid VAT and tax, so that it gets counted for in Nairobi. This is why when we came up with this KRA thing, we said all the national taxes should be collected at national level, because otherwise it would be misleading if you try to say, you know, the money was collected in this one and so you are in Western Kenya, but you're importing goods, you know, through Mombasa, so you pay all the VAT and all the customs duty and in Mombasa. So this idea that more people in Mount Kenya are paying is completely misleading. Second point is that what is this population of Mount Kenya that he's talking about? It's 17%, 18%, maximum 20%. But in all the resources that have been allocated to Mount Kenya, including the Public Service Commission, which are always published, by the way, they have more than their fair share. The Public Service always publishes that they have 22% of the public service force, which is more than the 17% of the population. But when you look at the revenue allocation, their focus is always on CDF and county governments. Uhuru was crazy about how much money goes to Mandera. He went all the way to Washington, New York, in UN Assembly and says, we are now giving Mandela is collecting this amount of money. Because it's some, for the first time we got some money through the county governments. He doesn't look at the 85%, where majority of us don't participate. Busia doesn't participate, I don't participate. It's all going to Mount Kenya. And I published a report, I remember last year when one thing came up on the difference between Kakamega and Kiambu alone. Forget about my area. You know, in terms of how much money was going in from national government for roads, for education, for all that thing. And you can't and they have the same population. So I think it is this entitlement thing that he thinks, you know, and I think he's clutching at the straws because he's having a problem in Mount Kenya. Uhuru tried this. He said 1 man, 1 shilling for 2-3 years just to try and get Mount Kenya back, and he couldn't. And is what we discussed earlier over tea. We said the issue is not, Mount Kenya people are not interested in the roads and those things. And I wrote articles on that. I remember when Uhuru was in power, I told him, my friend, concentrate on the Nyamakima and the economy. These people want money in their pocket. You have killed their businesses because through taxation, through other measures, counterfeit, and a lot of things. Those guys are out of business. Majority of your people in the backyard are no longer relying on the coffee and tea. It's only the shoshos who are back there on those things. They're all in importing goods and so forth. So you have made things impossible for them to import. Ruto, what he has done, for example, on the loose goods which are imported, they call it consolidated cargo, which is what you find in Gikomba or any of the similar markets all over the country. That's what people survive on, selling these little things. A container, we were paying 1.7 million tax when this government came in. Now it's 4.4 million. You know, it's almost more than double. So people are finding it very difficult. For the same amount of money that you had, you could import, you're importing now half of what you were able to import before because of the taxes. So these are the things you need to address, the economy, the business. That's what people want in Mount Kenya and other parts of the country. So you can move the entire government to Mount Kenya, which Uhuru did in his last 1 or 2 years to try and get, I remember all my CS friends and CS is always in Mount Kenya. They've been told, finish this project and finish that project. He thought he was going to give him votes. That's not the way. You need to deal with the economy. 1 man, 1 vote. What about the rest of the country? Okay, there are 10 million Mount Kenya guys. What about the other 40 million Kenyans?
1 kilometer. Dan
I mean,
says we should add 1 kilometer.
It's misleading.